Well, one of my early questions was, Ben, you mentioned that these swords are going to be difficult to cast. They're long, they're thin, they're narrow. Are they easy to forge or are they still difficult to forge?
They're, I mean, they're pretty easy to forge. Yeah,
Okay.
If you know what you're doing with forging, they're easy to forge and then grind. But as
yeah,
Ben was
because you
saying,
can you can buy
Okay.
a bar of steel that's an inch wide by a quarter to 3/16 thick
yeah,
by 3 feet long and just kind of hit a tip on it and like you're halfway there, you know?
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, and certainly lots of knife makers, you see them, they'll just buy that piece of steel and get on the grinder.
Sure, yeah.
sure, yeah. I mean, stock removal is certainly an option. I'd love to see. We're taking into account in the judging how these things are made,
Yep,
Yeah.
yep,
and what process you go through to make them. So certainly, if you can refine that casting process, and if you can use the proper materials and get the right geometry and the right weight, those things are going to be taken into account.
Yeah.
yep,
Uh,
yep.
so process is part of, yeah, I could call a buddy of ours and have the blade laser cut and throw it on the CNC machine and have it ground. And yeah, there's plenty of companies that do that. You
Yep,
throw a hunk of metal in a box and it comes out a blade.
yep.
Um, the getting an ideal geometry, it takes some practice and things like that. And it there are some things that if you got the casting process down, might be easier to do in casting. In that grinding of the proper geometry on a blade is often rather a difficult process, and to do it without either detempering the blade if it's pre-tempered or getting it so lean that when you temper it, you've got problems with warping and things like that. So there are a lot of aspects that go into it that aren't sexy, so you don't see them on TV shows, and you don't see them, in the movies. It's ding, 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 stuff it in the water, and you're done. But yeah,
Yeah.
put it in the snowbank and it's ready to go. It's saying, nah, it doesn't work that way.
But that being said, oh,
Yeah, one of my first questions to Ben when we first met was, do you temper them after you quench them, or are you trying to get people to let them auto temper by pulling them out while they're still hot? And he said, no, we
yeah,
temper them.
we temper. Yeah, but yeah, Kalen, to your question, this is definitely a sword that Dave Baker or I could do in an 8 hour competition, start to done.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I've
almost
actually done it. So.
almost always would have to be Damascus of some kind of silliness in there. So it's just a monosteel blade. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, we got that.
Okay,
One
very
of the
good.
unique challenges with this year's competition is the students have been asked to either make a replica or a sword in the style of something George Washington would like.
Mhm.
How is that going to factor in whether a team made a replica or their own unique blade? Is that a factor at all? Is one of those going to be more challenging than the other in your view?
Replicas are always more difficult because you have to figure out how they did that as opposed to doing your own thing. But I think that the pitfall of doing your own thing is there's a reason sword didn't look like that. You know,
Yeah.
you want to
Yeah.
reinvent a sword in these days,
Yeah.
it's kind of rough.
Yeah, and we've certainly witnessed that a lot in judging other competitions where uh, people had an idea that ooh, this is going to look great, and it turns into something that either bites your hand, makes the blade almost unusable, a guard that's in the way of everything. There are a number of pitfalls, has been said, to redesigning something that is the culmination of thousands of years of design. I
Yeah,
mean, the Cutto, is one of the last ones. I mean, you come to the end of sword design and you wind up with basically sabers, and this is a light, fast lightly curved saber that's easy to carry, and it's still effective as a fighting weapon and as a tool.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that I included the ability to make a replica is having a scouting background. I wanted them to have the freedom to be creative and do anything they wanted to do. That doesn't mean it's a good idea, but it could be a good idea.
Yeah.
And since it could be a good idea, that's fine. And so, yeah, we want the students to have the maximum width of creativity as long as they're making the thing we want to make that can be tested.
Yeah.